Hey guys, Jeff Rottmeyer here with Athletic Mission Baseball Academy, and this is for the Dominate the Plate Facebook group, a training that I'm going to try and do every single week, more of a workshop style training over a topic that you guys pick. So this week I threw out 4 topics, and you guys all decided that you guys wanted to hear a little bit more about handling slumps and periods of bad performances. So I'm excited about this one, so let's get into it. I start with a quote. It says, "When I'm in a slump, I comfort myself by saying that if I believe in dinosaurs, then somewhere they must believe in me. And if they believe in me, then I can believe in myself. Then I burst out." That's from Mookie Wilson. So you kind of have to have some humor whenever you're not playing well, especially when you get to a level like that. He played in the big leagues. So when you get to that level, you got to have some humor when you're not playing well. So it's a funny little quote. Anytime you're struggling, if you believe in dinosaurs, they believe in you, then you can believe in yourself. So, all right, here's what we're going to cover in this training real quick. We're going to talk about what kind of slump we're in. There's several different types of slumps, and we need to understand what slump we are in so that we can actually come up with the right plan. The next one we're going to talk about just typical thoughts that those guys have. So if you can have when you're having a conversation with a hitter, and they start having some type of these type of thoughts, if you can identify them, then you can start identifying what type of slump they're in. And then we're going to talk about the perspective that we need to shift. And then we'll talk about neutralizing performances or neutralizing the slump, neutralizing emotions. Then we'll talk about what you should not be doing versus what you should be doing. And then lastly, the action plan. Now, for those of you guys that don't know me and who I am, I've been coaching for 17 years after a failed playing career. This was supposed to be a 2-year journey just to get closure out of how my career ended. But it turned into a 17-year thing, and I'm like really enjoying the process of where I'm at, especially when I start identifying where hitters are at. There's a lot of hitters that are struggling. We're just focusing on the wrong stuff. So I played at Seminole State in Oklahoma, and then I went to Florida Gulf Coast. I was drafted by the Marlins, and until the game told me I wasn't good enough. I transitioned into coaching, and what I learned really, really quick, like when I transitioned into coaching, was how little I knew about something that I've been trying to master my whole life, which was hitting, right? I knew that hitters' issues were more strategic. I knew it wasn't physical because I could hit a baseball forever. I could hit a baseball hard and far. I was a bigger guy. I hit 40 home runs in high school and 40 in college. So that wasn't an issue. It was more strategic. I struggled with the breaking pitch, and the swinging and missing. Now, that was the story that I was told, and I believed that I continued to tell myself over and over and over, and it manifested into a series of issues that I had when I played. So I knew that most guys' hitters' issues were more strategic. So I developed the strategic hitter program that's designed to shift the hitter's focus from self to the opponent. That's from constantly comparing themselves to everybody else to understanding their role and dominating their role. So now I'm ready to share a different perspective to anyone that will listen, because the solution is not physical or mental. We need to be more strategic. So, what kind of slumps? There are 3 types of slumps. There are strategic slumps, there are mental slumps, and then there are physical slumps. It's important to understand the difference. The strategic slump, this is when a hitter is struggling at the plate due to poor decision making or lack of situational counter awareness. So this can manifest into bad decision making. We're swinging at bad pitches. We're failing to adjust pitcher to pitcher. You guys are going to face 2 to 3 different pitchers a game, 10 to 15 different, 20 different pitchers a week. You have to adjust from pitcher to pitcher based on what they do and how they attack hitters. So if we're not adjusting to that, then we're going to be in what we call a strategic slump, and then not capitalizing on favorable counts. The count is either in your favor or it's not. So you have to capitalize when the counts are in your favor. That's a strategic thing. All right, the next one will be the mental slump. This is the hitter that's struggling, and it stems from a physiological factor. So to include like confidence and focus and motivation. So this will happen whenever a hitter starts to doubt their abilities, like overthink mechanics or become overly critical of themselves. Then there's the physical slump, and this is where the physical piece, like the swing and stuff like that, come into play. So this is due to poor mechanics, muscle imbalances. That's why that's been a big thing over the last couple of years. The on base U and all that stuff. It's trying to find the imbalances in your body. Being tired, being injured, all those things can affect your ability to generate power, your ability to maintain bat speed, and your ability to be more consistent in making contact with the baseball. Now, when we're looking at this, I think it's very important that we start with strategic. I very rarely have found guys that have a now they have now listen, you can hit when you have physical issues. Okay. So it's not really over the swing. I've seen like ugly swings really hit well, and I've seen great swings not hit at all. So that tells me that there's something more, right? That tells you that okay, the next part would be okay, that's a mental thing. But what triggered my ability to start to doubt my abilities? What triggered me to overthink what I'm trying to do? What triggers me? What triggers me? And that is my lack of being able to know how to do something, right? So if I can't hit a slider, I literally don't know how to hit the slider. Now the self-doubt starts coming in. Now that starts triggering the emotion that I have. It's because I literally didn't know how to do it, right? So it has to be a strategic thing, right? It's knowing how. It's the plan for that pitch. If I don't have one and I don't really know how to do it, then that's going to manifest itself mentally. And then that will manifest itself physically. So that's the message I'm trying to get out to the world, is that it starts strategic and then mental and then physical. Right now we go physical, and whenever that fails, we go to mental. And then we start working on coping skills, but we don't really like I can sit there and positive self-talk all day long, but if I literally don't know how to hit the slider, then that positive self-talk don't matter. I can positive self-talk my way as much as I want, but it still doesn't change the fact that I don't have a plan to hit that slider. See what I'm saying? So we got to start strategic. We got to understand where we at. Can we execute? Because if we can't execute in certain situations, certain counts against certain pitchers, certain pit types, then that's going to trigger the mental side, which will trigger the physical side. So I hope that kind of makes sense. We got to start at the strategic aspect whenever we're not playing well, and then that should like if I literally know what to do, then dude, I have all the confidence in the world. Then my mental game gets better. And when my thinking and my mental game gets better, I have confidence, then the physical stuff gets better. So we got to start strategic. We got to understand what we're doing. So strategic, mental, and physical. So I hope that makes sense. So now here's different thoughts that hitters might have. Just so when you're having a conversation, you can kind of get a general idea. Okay, this guy's having a strategic issue. This guy's having a mental issue. This guy's having a physical issue. Now, that doesn't mean that like there are guys that are really hung up on the physical piece that just don't even know about the strategic piece, right? So they're not going to be thinking that way. But as you start to teach hitters to be more strategic, to be more focused on the opponent, then you'll start to see the conversations start to change, and then the thoughts that they have start to change. So, like, I can't seem to read the pitches or the movement. Like, that's a strategic thing. Pitch selection has been poor. That's a strategic thing. Not executing the situation. That's a strategic thing. The timing is off against different pitchers because I faced 15 different pitchers this week. That is a strategic thing. I don't know what adjustments to make. That is a strategic thing. Now we go into the mental slump. I can't handle the pressure. What that tells me is, okay, that's a strategic thing. So the pressure, runner on second and third, you really don't know how to execute. Is it because you don't know how to drive the ball the other way? Is it because you don't know how to hit this pitcher's slider or hit this pitcher's curveball or his fastball? Right? So that's where the pressure comes in. I don't know if I can execute. That's real. Like, I don't know how, if I can execute means I don't know what I'm doing. So it becomes a strategic thing, right? I can't move on from the last at bat, right? Like, how do I move on? That's a strategic thing. Like, that's a step by step. Like, how do I move on from the last pitch to stay present at the very moment? My confidence is shocked. I'm afraid to make mistakes, right? Then the physical piece is my swing feels off, or I'm tired, or I'm in. Right. So if you're injured, then your swing's gonna be off. If you're tired, then your swing's gonna be off. And then the swing feeling off, a lot of times that's the manifestation of the mental and the strategic aspect. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so now let's talk about perspective. For us to make it through a slump, we need to shift our perspective, the lens. So you have to understand that everything is balanced, right? So for every good, there's an equal amount of bad. For every bad, there's an equal amount of good, right? Now, how we as hitters label things matter. So if I label something positive, then okay, that's a positive event. So in the future, I feel like every time I get into that event, I'm going to have success. A negative event, if I label something negative, then in the future, I feel like if I get in that situation, I'm not going to execute. So where we're on both sides of it, neither one of them is good because it's not balanced, right? So anytime you do something good, you got to find what the equal negative to it. Same thing with negative. What's the equal positive to it? Because when you can do that, then you start neutralizing the event. It just becomes an event, right? So when I can do that, the story that I tell myself changes. And now I become more neutralized. I become more balanced. The one thing you could think of is like a pendulum, right? So if it goes too far this way, like I'm playing really, really well, and I label it really well, like, dude, I'm killing it. Like right here, if I go too far this way, at some point it's going to come back, and it's got to go this way, right? So the goal is to be down here. I need to stay down here, almost somewhat balanced, so that I don't have the big emotional swings, and then find balance. You know, so that's what we're trying to do when we start neutralizing events. All we're trying to do is stay down here so that we can be more consistent. We can be more. We have a different perspective on the event, and we don't get too emotionally triggered. When we start getting emotionally triggered, that's when things fall apart. That's the thing that's gonna keep us from really playing as well as we are capable of playing. And this can be in anything on the field. It could be in on the pitching mound. It could be on the base path. It could be in the classroom. It could be in business. It could be anything. When you start understanding how that process works, that everything is balanced, there's the equal good to every bad, then you start understanding that there's kind of like an ebb and flow of things, right? So it's like, okay, right now I'm just riding out the ebbs so that I can get to the flow, you know? So once you start understanding that, and you start understanding that things don't last forever, then you're going to be fine. But when you start thinking, like, when things are going bad and you start thinking, oh, dude, I'm never going to get out of it, then you're not. It's going to be prolonged, right? Because the story you're telling yourself is keeping you down. If you just sit there, okay, dude, I just got to keep doing what I'm doing. Boom, I'll get back up here, and hopefully the goal is we start getting like this instead of like this. Okay, so when you guys understand that, when I can get hitters to understand that, then dude, they take off better than most of them, than the ones who don't. Now there are certain guys that you can't help. It's unfortunate, but there are some people that you can't help. Just like in anything, in any type of profession, there are people you can help. There are people that you can't help. So that's how I want you guys to think of this. Like there's balance. We have to neutralize the motion, and we got to stay balanced. Okay. All right. So slump. So let's just kind of talk about kind of neutralizing. So when there is a slump, it has more to do with what you are not doing versus what you are doing. When we're playing well, we're focused on the task and we're making adjustments. When we start taking shortcuts and start thinking, "Hey, dude, I'm playing well. Nobody can get me out. I got it all figured out." When we start doing too much of the positive self-talk, then that's when the slumping begins, and it happens fast. Like if I don't pay attention to that, it happens really, really fast. So when we go into a slump, there's a process that we need to go through. There's a process for everything, right? So once you understand the process of things, then things go much more efficiently. So when you're going through a slump, first thing we got to do is identify all the benefits and all the drawbacks, right? So that we can figure out where we want to focus, right? So the benefit of a slump is obviously the learning opportunity. We say that, we believe that, whether we like like that, the belief is one thing. So yeah, it's an opportunity for us to look at our decision making process and our situational count awareness so we can get a better understanding of our approach. Now we have adaptability. Like we have to learn how to adjust our approach based on the situation, based on the pitcher, based on the what the game is asking us to do. A lot of time we go up there thinking and doing the same thing over and over and over. So the more we have an understanding of how we can adjust our approach based on the pitcher and based on the game, then that's a good thing for us to understand. The other thing is humility, understanding that there's always room for improvement. You're never at a level where you don't have to work anymore. Increasing self awareness. This is a huge part of what I do. It's really getting hitters to be aware of who they are, where they are, what they're doing, what they're thinking, all this stuff. The more awareness you have, the more understanding and the more solutions you can find. So a lot of us walk through things not really understanding what's happening because we don't have self awareness. Identifying opponent strategies, like the matchup against the hitter and the pitcher is what we're doing. It's about the matchup, right? So a lot of hitters don't really understand that. They don't understand that, hey, there's a pitcher on the mound that's trying to get me out, and I need to beat him, and I'm not going to win that often. So there's a matchup, and you have to start understanding the the strategy that they're trying to use against you based on how their pitchers throw and move. And then lastly, it's kind of like rely on the support. You need to find people that within your support network, keep that network small that you can talk to. Obviously, the drawback, which is obvious, is the decrease in performance, loss in performance, or loss in confidence, loss in position and line of frustration. So those are kind of the obvious, right? So one of the things that we tend to do when we move on is we need to break it down further. And we don't have time to go through kind of all of that today right now. So I'm just going to kind of give you an idea. So when we go through a slump, we tend to try and do too much, right? And when we do too much, this leads to overswinging. It leads to excess play, like expanding the zone. It leads to overthinking pitch selection, over adjusting, over anticipating off speed pitches, overly passive, overly aggressive. So, what we would do is figure out where you're at in that process of trying to do too much. And then we would go through and break down the we would break down the benefit and drawback of that. And when we can do that, then we really start neutralizing emotions. So we're starting to really pinpoint things and really break things down and change the story that we tell ourselves so we can get rid of the mental garbage. And when we do that, then we got a chance to really help ourselves out, and getting out of a slump. So again, we would break down all of it. No, the reason why this is beneficial is because you identify issues, right? You identify solution, and then you can develop a real plan. I really have yet to see a lot of guys develop a real, like, comprehensive, like, plan. And it's not, when you get to a certain level, it's not big stuff. It's more the little stuff. So the more you can have a plan for all the little stuff, the better off you're going to be. And so your slumps and stuff is going to be neutralized, right? So this is the mental game. When we talk about neutralizing emotion, like, where do we get triggered? And what we do is we find the positive and the negative of it, and then we just go deep with it, and then we start neutralizing emotion. We start changing the story we tell ourselves, and then we get rid of the mental garbage. We get rid of the lens, and we have a different perspective, and allows us to go through things very, very quickly. Allows us to have much more success in this game, because the mental garbage is what's killing us. All right, so let's the real mental game is understanding how and what you think, right? So that's the real mental game. So let's talk about what we should not be doing when we're struggling. What you should not be doing when you're struggling is listening to everyone. This is one of my biggest pet peeves, is when you're not playing well, everybody's got something to say. And you shouldn't be listening to everyone, because they don't know you. They don't know how you think. They don't know what you're trying, what you do to work. They don't know you. You need to keep your support network small. So you need to identify the two to three people that you say, hey, this is my hitting support network. I'm only going to listen to these guys. Okay. And only do what those guys do and say. Don't do what everybody says. That's going to get you more confused, and you're going to start doing a lot of crap, and you're going to be in that slump for a lot longer than you need to be. Do not do this should be do not do extra rep off the tee. Your swing is not why you're not hitting. Your swing is not why you're not hitting. So just like we were talking about earlier, it's probably the lack of your ability to execute, or lack of understanding what you need to do against the pitcher. It's more of a strategic thing. So you got to start at the strategic level, because you're doing extra reps off the tee. Is it going to help you against that pitcher and that pitcher and that pitcher and that pitcher that also from different arm slots, all different velocity, and all have a different approach? Your swing is not what's going to help that. So do not do the extra rep off the tee. You need to sit down and more evaluate. We'll talk about that later, and then analyze your video. Man, like, I can, again, that's the same concept of thinking that the swing is your issue. Analyzing video, it gets you overthinking about things that you shouldn't be thinking about. Because remember, your swing is only as good as the pitches you swing at. Your swing is only as good as your timing. Your swing is only as good as your ability to see the ball. Okay, so you're looking at the wrong thing. That's not your hitting issue. Pressing for hits. Like, again, we go back to understanding that the world is balanced. Everything is balanced. So when you're not doing well, it's gonna come back. You just need to press it out, play through it. But you don't need to be pressing. You don't need to be doing extra things. Extra things is not what you need to do. You probably need to do less things. Get your mind off of it a little bit. Get away from it. Quit obsessing over it. And the last one is focusing on the outcome. So that's not what you should not be focusing on. Okay, so let me go back to this, because I said Do extra reps off the tee. That was right. So that's what you should not be doing. Okay, yeah. So back down to here, focusing on the outcome. That's easier said than done. I get it. But we got to get to the point where we are playing the game one pitch at a time. Like I got a guy right now that just recently been struggling a little bit. He's like one for his last 16. But he told me, he goes, dude, I don't even know that. I didn't even know it. I do my post game stuff. I do all the stuff you tell me to do, but I'm not so emotionally triggered that I realize that I'm one for 16 because I just didn't. It did not like that. That's where you want to be. Like he's not triggered by that. He's not. He knows it's going to come back around, but he really just so focused on the process, so focused on one pitch at a time that he didn't even realize he was one for his last 15 because he was taking good at bats, so he was okay with it. He knows what he needs to focus on. So that's the same thing that we're trying to get you here. So what should you be doing? Too many hitters do not evaluate their at bats enough. You got to have a process for you to come back, get closure with your bat. Meaning you thought through it, what should happen, how did it happen, and what's the takeaway that I need to take in for the next at bat. You need to get closure in your at bat so that you can move on. Otherwise, you're going to take that at bat with you for the next 4, 5, 10 swings. And now the next thing you know, you're 1 for 12. Again, it happens fast. So you got to get closure in your at bat. So you need to evaluate all of your at bats in the dugout after the at bat. Same thing post game. Post game is you got to evaluate, okay, all the pitches that you faced and how did you do against them? Because there's a lot of false things that can come from it. You can get 2, 3, 4, 5 duck fart hits and go 4 for 5 and think that, dude, I'm killing it, and you're not. Or you can hit 3 hard balls right to center field, and he caught them all, and think that you're struggling. So when you start breaking down your at bat, you start realizing that's never as good or as bad as you think it is. It just never is. But you need to get closure in your game so that you can move on. So if you do the post game process right, you're going to get closure and you're going to be able to move on to the next day because that closure process gives you a plan for the next week or for the next game or the next day, whatever it is that for your level. All right. And then also what you should be doing is start with the strategic aspect because so many guys start at the physical piece and they don't realize that that's because it's the mental and the strategic piece. So always start with the strategic piece. Start with the pitcher. What is the pitcher doing to me? Am I swinging at the right pitch? Am I seeing the ball? Am I on time? Stuff like that. That's where you need to start whenever things aren't going well. And then you need to figure out, okay, what's the plan for tomorrow for me to work on that so that I can get closure and move on. Understand the ebb and flow and everything is balanced. If you understand that, then dude, like everything just easier. Even like life, life is easy when you start understanding. Okay, dude, like it's gonna come back. I'm right here. It's gonna come back to the middle. I just need to like push through, keep doing what I'm doing, and know that it's gonna pop back where it needs to be. And then the last one is gonna be you need to be doing the little things. Quit taking shortcuts. Like having success is just as bad as having as struggling, right? So having success, a lot of time we start to think we got things all figured out. We start to think, hey, I'm good, and then we start taking shortcuts, or we don't make the adjustment that we need quick enough. And again, that leads us to next thing we know, we're 1 for 12, and we were like, dude, I was just on fire, and now I'm here. Okay, so we gotta do the little things that we do every single day. We got to be consistent at that so that we can have consistent performance. All right, so let's go with action items. I'm going to challenge you guys to really sit down with your hitter and talk through all the things that they think is going on. Okay, let them start with what they think. Because a lot of times these guys know. If you allow them to talk, if you don't judge them, if you don't put information in their head, they know what's going on, especially when they get to a certain level. So allow them to talk, really break it down, try to understand, okay, what the positive of this event, what's the negative of it, and let's neutralize that, and then let's follow the plan to get ourselves out of it. Um, you might need to sit down with a coach, or maybe they need to sit down with a third party person, someone like me. And this is what I do full time, right? So you guys can send me a DM anytime you guys want. You guys have that in the group. We have that 15-minute call that you guys can utilize me to help you guys walk through kind of this stuff. So again, I hope this all makes sense. So again, the topic was handling slump and periods of bad performances. So let me know what your feedbacks are, and let me know if I can help you in any way.